Hello, world. Patricia, O'Connor, Frida, Reba, Darcy here. I'm here. Frida's here. Paola's here. And we're off and running. Today, on the bonsai balcony, I have been busy. One, the weather says 68 degrees. Color me skeptical. I'm in a tank top and burning up. It's a little warm. Also, I've been a busy girl today. I have moved our tree from there to there. Big move. But it involved moving it from that table to that table. It also involved moving the sheet of plywood that had been hanging out there in the back of frame for about a week or two over to there. This is a work in progress, and that's our ponderosa where it sits there. And now it gets some full exposure, and then at the same time it also gets good light exposure while still on the turntable. I can rotate it as need to. I'm going to cut that board down somewhat so it's not all of that, but I think that works pretty well. Also, I would like to move my maple to here. I would like to put a little board underneath it that has two blocks underneath that, so I can set it up, drill a hole in the bottom of the board so it'll still use our gutter. But then I could face the tree this way. In other words, I'd like to sit it up higher than the shelf on some boards that have a hole in it so that the drain part of the shelf will still work. Then we moved our cork bark oak where our ponderosa had been hanging out in partial light, waiting to get acclimated. I think that's a good move. I'm still leaving the space open over there if we need it. But right now, I think if I put it back in full sun, what we've seen is that's what I'm doing to cook all the leaves off of it. So it's shooting out like a whole lot. It's just flushing out with a whole lot of shoots, I should say. And we're going to try our best to keep them. We're going to hold off on putting it on the rail. We're going to keep an eye on our PM, and we are going to stop with the name on this guy. This cannot handle it. I would also, yeah. So that's kind of what's going on there, and there. I really like the placements of those. Having this here means I can still get to this tree, and I can still get to this tree. Having that tree there made it hard to take care of that tree because it was still taking up too much room here in the center. I couldn't rotate it even though it was on my table because it would get into this or it would get into this. And but it was getting mostly artificial, but it was still getting a lot of light. Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about the way all of that turned out. Now, these guys are still okay. We're still waiting on them. I then moved that little table, stacked my two pedestals, took my tray from here that had my two ponderosas on it, added this guy here, that little tray, and then that's where Frankenpine now lives. These guys still get a lot of good light. Right now, some of these are being flagged a little bit by the oak. That's okay. They still get it hot and heavy during the main part of the day, and they're still getting it overhead. You're just seeing the sun cast a shadow from the California oak, whereas we've still got our guns a-blazing overhead, which are still supplying all these. Now, my ponderosas then got to shift down here in Pineville, and I have a couple of them up here. I might bring those down too with them so that they're all in one spot. That frees open that little back row there because I brought now the maple forward, the maple forest forward, and by doing so, it's a lot closer. It's a lot easier to maintain. It's a lot easier for me to water without reaching all the way over to water, and it'll be a lot easier for me to get to. I've been sitting there I've just been kind of looking at it from across the other trees and just kind of reaching out to watering it. And by not being able to get close to it, I haven't been doing right by this little guy. I haven't been weeding it like I needed to. Also, the same goes with that guy and that guy. They just got overgrown with weeds because I had trees in the way that, I mean, like I haven't weeded them in a minute, but at least I would go through every couple of weeks and pull them out some to where I didn't feel like they were actually dragging the trees down. That came to a halt when I had too much stuff in between me and those guys. So that opened up. That's making better use of our space. We still have unused real estate over there. We still have unused real estate over there. We still have unused real estate over there. And if I move this to here, we've still got unused real estate. Well, either here or here, whatever I decide. But that could be another line of seedlings. And yeah, I think that's all. I'm pretty happy with the way this all turned out. So speaking of the way this all turned out, it's right here. It's right here. I know it's hard to tell what's. I know it's hard to tell what is Akadama on the rug there and what is dog treats. Time to call Higgins. Higgins is our RoboVac. Look back here. This is about last night. That's how I go into this. About last night, we did, I think, some pretty cool. I think we did coolness last night. This limb was over here. This limb right here was in such perfect alignment with the limb in front of it that you couldn't see it. They were running in tandem. So I had to like rake all of this stuff through all of this stuff to get it down there. But that's just what we did. We cut it loose from the tie line that I had to pull it up a little higher to try to make some kind of shape out of it. And I was like, no, that just needs to come out of there completely. And then once we pulled that out of there completely, I was able to whip it around and get a big part of the foliage coming out of the back. So I think that we've brushed away a lot of stuff that was dead in front of that tree. I have to go back and look at the original photograph that I saved from the website where I bought this tree from, so that I just absolutely look at it and you go, we have changed so much. This branch used to be, no lie, up here. It went as far above that deadwood feature. It went farther above it than it goes below it now. Yeah, so it was way up there. Also, while we were doing all of that stuff, I got the nerve to work on our gins. Can I come around there without doing anything? I don't know that I can. We can come around this other way. Okay, I can show you this way. I have cut back those gins. They were really long, and I left them to where they would be twisted, and I left them kind of spiky. And then there's the other one. That one came out and made a fork, and I liked the fork, but it was about 10 inches away from where you see there, and I just thought it was hanging out, like I'm way over here hanging out, and I just thought that was too long. So what I've been learning, and I've been talking to you guys about how excited I am about the possibility of possibly grafting this guy come spring, or grafting it one spring. But here's something about that I'm learning too. I'm watching numerous videos from my lessons on grafted pine styling and grafting pines and grafting ponderosa pines, and I'm actually watching some where the guy is a gnome, and he's grafting his with some of them with Scots and some of them with Japanese black pine. So I've got a 1-for-1 lesson to see exactly what it is I need to be doing and what it is I need to be focused on. And still in all, our accomplished bonsai person says that on ponderosas, his grafts are about 50%. He also shows trees that were grafted, and he goes through and points out a couple of limbs where students were responsible for some of the grafts, and he was cutting back a ponderosa branch because it had a graft on it that was suited him, so he wanted to cut off the end of the ponderosa growth on the end, just as a little. And you don't do that all at once. You kind of just you wean it off of one to the other because that would just whack it out hormonally. You have to phase in and phase out, kind of a thought. But when he went to cut like the end off, he showed 5 failed grafts in an area from like there to there, and that was a student. So, you know, I bet the student was probably, for whatever was going on in their life, they were probably doing their best work at that time. And somewhere between those 5 grafts and what they've done recently, I hope they've learned. But I'm not saying anything about that guy. I'm saying that's what kind of results I should probably expect going in. So that's something to think about. But it's going to take 2 or 3 years to start to finish to get these grafts going. They say 18 months once you have working grafts going to start transition them in and transition the old foliage out. And yeah, so that's definitely a lot to think about. Also, when do you do that? Some places in some climates you'd want to do this in fall, and then in other climates where the winters aren't quite up to snuff, you'd want to do this in spring just before everything starts pushing out. That way you don't have something sitting there on the vine all winter in limbo, the way sometimes winter does our pines here. It kind of keeps them in and out of dormancy. Maybe that's what they mean. But for our area, it was kind of suggested that we would do our grafts in the spring. And the other thing, timing-wise, they said, was if you were going to style a tree, in other words, what I did, all this bending, all this bonsai jack stuff, all of this pushing and shifting and spinning and all of that, if you're going to do that and you're going to graft, do the styling first. It increases your success rate on grafts to graft an already stalled tree. And the closer you graft, time-wise, to the time that you've spent styling it, the more successful your grafts may be. That's just straight out of the teacher's mouth. So by that, the best time for me to graft this tree would be next spring in the Bay Area. Now, the best time for me to graft a really, really, really special ponderosa would not be next spring. Next spring would be the time for me to graft something a little less risky and see how it goes. I've also heard 50 grafts before your technique becomes stable enough to get better or worse at it. So that would be 2 or 3 a piece on those guys, might get us up to snuff. But that's all stuff I'm thinking about. And also what I led on about the other day, we are here in just a little while going to get pretty busy with the chops on these bald cypress trees. At least what we will do this fall is cut back our branches and start on our secondary and tertiary in the 4th round, while also maybe bringing in a few new branches wherever we thought we might have been missing something earlier. Like if I have a side that seems a little bare, then we're open for volunteers to come out on this side. Yeah. So that's kind of my rule of thumb on this rather warm fall day. I'm glad to have my maple, Kodaheim maple forest a little closer, within reach. It means I can treat this thing better. I can not water the leaves as much. I can rotate the thing every once in a while. I can reach in there and weed it a little bit, which hadn't been happening with the regular basis. If you fall out of in love with your trees and they were trees that you once loved, maybe you have gotten over that species, or maybe you just need to spend more time with it. And I kind of knew that was going on, but they were way over there, and I had to reach over, and I'm always so. I'm kind of glad that we bit the bullet. Now I could start another row of pines back there, because I can reach over just fine with my smallest watering can, and get those guys to behave. So I'm trying to say I can reach over with my smallest house watering can and water all of those very easily. That's how I do it in the morning. I could do another row of those quite. So that's got us. That's our go out in the sunshine and enjoy some Saturday. I think this is way more sustainable, way more usable. It's way user friendly. I can get to everything a lot better. This guy's on wheels. I can still rotate it. That's still on its table. I can rotate it. I can work around this a lot easier than I could work around that. The maple's going to be fine there. The trident's going to be, the dawn redwood's going to be fine there. So yeah, this is a little bit of modification. We needed to add something, so we added it and moved on. We needed to add something else, and we added it and moved on. And then at one point we went, I'm feeling a little hemmed in. Let's drag some stuff in the house for a minute and then move one or two things and see what that space frees up for us and that's just kind of how this all started. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. We are going to bring in a Ponderosa tonight. It will be the last Ponderosa to be bent. I have a feeling we may name it Mohican. And we'll either do that, or I've been kind of itching to put a Ponderosa in a bonsai pot the way we've done some of our pines. Ooh, yeah. I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching.